All right, guys. So we are going to be making chocolate no bake cookies on Monday in class. And this is going to go ahead and just kind of go through what would normally be our lab planning procedure, just so that you have a heads up as to how this is going to be executed on Monday so that you aren't completely clueless coming into class with us not being able to do the normal sheet of lab planning and walking through together in class. So, for our no bake cookies, this is what they look like if you look at the picture. And why they're called no bake cookies is because they're actually not having to go into the oven at all. We have a portion of the recipe that's going to be cooked on the stovetop, and then that's going to get mixed with our other part of our ingredients. And then, really, all we're doing is we're dropping it into muffin tin liners and we let them set overnight. Once they cool off and set, then they're kind of this nice little cookie that we never had to actually put in the oven and bake. So, we're going to go through what the process is going to look like. On Monday, I will go through who is waiter, so we know who exactly is coming up to measure, who's head chef, assistant chef, and host as well. So, first and foremost, we are going to be separating out our measuring into two different rounds. What that means is the waiters are going to come up and get certain ingredients in round one. They're going to bring those things back to the kitchen so that the head chef can start cooking with those ingredients. And then while that's happening, they're going to come back up and get the round two ingredients. And then they can get back to the kitchen with those round two ingredients, and by the time that they need those round two ingredients, the round one items should be ready to go. So, what is going to be in our round one of ingredients is going to be these first ingredients here. We're going to go ahead as a waiter. We're going to come up and get half a cup of sugar, which, if you remember in our butter equivalents, okay, half a cup of butter is going to be one whole stick of butter. Then we're going to be getting 2 cups of sugar. So we want to make sure that we are bringing up a dry 1 cup. And we're going to want to make sure that we have that straight edge spatula with us so that we can properly level it off. We are then going to go ahead and get a 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. So that's going to require us to bring up a dry 1/4 cup, and then we can still use that straight edge spatula to go ahead and level off that cocoa powder as well. And then lastly, in our round one ingredients, we're going to get half a cup of milk. So for that, we're going to need to bring up a liquid measuring cup with us. Okay, so those first 4 ingredients, we're going to go ahead and want to get straight back to our head and our assistant chef right away so that they can get those things cooking. Now, our second round of ingredients. So, waiters, you will then go ahead and get whatever it is that we need to go ahead and be measuring for those ingredients. And then we will go ahead and get that back to our group as well. So, the 3 ingredients that are going to be in round 2 is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So, we will need to make sure we bring up a teaspoon with us. We're going to bring 2 different measuring cups in order for us to be able to measure 3/4 of a cup of peanut butter. So because peanut butter is a really thick consistency, if you remember, we're going to use dry measuring cups for that. We don't have a 3/4 dry measuring cup. So instead, we are going to need to bring up a half and a 1/4 dry measuring cup to be able to measure out that peanut butter. And I will remind you guys of this on Monday since I know we aren't filling out a traditional lab planning sheet. And then the other item we're going to go ahead and measure is going to be 3 cups of oats. So we are going to need a dry 1 cup for that. And we'll go ahead and just measure it 3 times and get those 3 full cups. Now, these items here, we are going to go ahead and put into our yellow mixing bowl. So, waiters, you're going to want to bring that yellow mixing bowl up with you for these round 2 of ingredients that we are measuring. That way, once we measure that vanilla, we can dump it right into the mixing bowl. Once we measure those 3 cups of oats, we can dump it right into the mixing bowl. And then our peanut butter, we can go ahead and just get it into our mixing bowl once we get back into our kitchens, since that takes a little bit of time since it's so sticky and thick. But we want to have that yellow mixing bowl with us on the cafeteria tray so that our oats and our vanilla can go right into there and we're not having to bring extra additional bowls with us. Now, we are also going to be needing, as far as equipment goes, we're going to be needing 12 muffin liners, as well as the pan we're going to use is going to be a muffin tin. So if we remember, these are going to be demo items, and demo items are going to be for our assistant chef to grab. So once we see on Monday who is our assistant chef, that person should come up, they should grab the muffin tin, and then they're going to go ahead and grab 12 muffin liners, one liner to go into each space in that muffin tin. Okay, our host is not having to preheat the oven at all, so they're going ahead and just getting that hot soapy water ready to go. And then we'll talk about what other equipment in our kitchen that the head chef can be gathering as well. Now, if we look at the recipe, the way that this is going to work, okay, we just talked about getting our liners in our muffin tin, so we've taken care of that. The next thing is those first round of ingredients, okay, our butter, our sugar, our cocoa, and our milk. That is all going to go into our saucepan, and we're going to be cooking that over a medium heat on our stovetop. We're going to want to go ahead and be stirring consistently during that whole time that it's heating. That's going to help make sure that our sugar really disintegrates well and it isn't causing a grainy texture in that mixture. So for that stirring process, we can use a rubber scraper, because then that will also work really well once we have to mix our ingredients together later on. Now, very, very, very important. Once our mixture reaches what is called a full rolling boil, meaning that within the saucepan, those ingredients are bubbling a lot. It's not just a couple little bubbles on the edges. We have full on boiling happening. At that point, we're going to stop stirring entirely, and we're going to let that mixture boil for exactly 1 minute. So you can go ahead and just quickly set your timer on your oven for that 1 minute so that you can keep track of it. That's going to go ahead and just keep boiling for that 1 minute. You do want to watch that the mixture doesn't come up too high on the saucepan and boil over. If you do feel like it is getting too high, you can turn your heat down just a little bit. We want to keep it at a boil, but we just want to make sure it doesn't boil over onto our stovetop. Okay, so once that minute is up, at that point, we are going to go ahead and turn off our heat. Okay, so we're going to turn our heat off, and we're going to take that saucepan mixture and we are going to go ahead and pour it into our yellow bowl. Because at this point, our waiters will be back with our second round of ingredients. And in that yellow bowl, we're going to then have our vanilla, our peanut butter, and our oatmeal. So everything, if everybody's doing their job appropriately, by the time that this is done boiling, our waiters should be back with our second round of ingredients. It's all in the yellow bowl ready to go. At that point, we're going to go ahead and stir it really well. You don't want to let it sit long. You want to go ahead and get it stirring right away. And you can just use that rubber scraper that you had been using the whole time. And then we're going to go ahead and be dropping our cookie mixture into those muffin tin liners at about 1/4 cup each. Okay. Now you can use a dry 1/4 cup measuring cup if you want, or you can just simply go ahead and use a spoon, whichever one you're more comfortable with. But you're going to go ahead and fill each muffin tin liner with that cookie mixture. At the end, you're going to go ahead and make sure that you're grabbing, there are going to be labeled foils that are going to show period, whatever. Okay, let's say period 7, and let's say kitchen 2. Each foil is going to be labeled with the period and the kitchen number. So somebody is going to have to make sure that they grab that appropriately labeled foil. And you're going to go ahead and put that over your muffin tin so that it is covered well. And then we are going to go ahead and let it cool overnight. And then tomorrow you will go ahead and be able to eat them. Okay, so make sure we grab that foil appropriately so we're not eating what we think is ours and it's actually a different kitchen's. And then, like I said, at that point, we're going to worry about cleanup. Do make sure that we are rinsing all of our dishes really well before they go into that hot soapy water. Also, a big one that people typically lose points on is cleaning out our strainers for this. A lot of times people forget to clean out their strainers and it leaves oats behind in those strainers and we lose points in the process. Otherwise, we should have fun on Monday going through this recipe, and let me know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, we will see you then.